First of all, we went through basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky, where you get up roughly at 4 o'clock in the morning, exercise, breakfast, field maneuvers, working with weapons, gas mask. You got all kinds of exercise, and then you got PT training, and you got come back in, and you got to go to lunch and dinner. You didn't have a lot of free time. After basic training, I ended up going to Fort Gordon, Georgia in advanced infantry training, which is jungle training. I was supposed to have been in the infantry in a security guard outside of Saigon. I had orders for Vietnam, but I didn't have to go because of my brother. At that point in time, I came home on leave, and then I was assigned to my closest duty station because I had the brother in Vietnam. I ended up going to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and I got drafted. Well, and at that time, we had the Vietnam War, the start, and it was getting pretty hot and heavy. Again, I tried to sign up for the Air Force, but they wouldn't take me. I already had my job at General Electric, and the way that works is once you go into the service, your time at General Electric continues. So basically, after 2 years in the service, instead of me having on the job as 2 months, I had 2 years and 2 months. And federal law is that General Electric had to offer me a job when I got out of the service. So that's how I got. I had never thought about the service personally, and I probably wouldn't have gone in hadn't the Vietnam War been pretty hot and heavy. Yeah. I mean, I just wouldn't have, only because I never give it any consideration, but I had paid for my college. I wanted to get out and have some spending money for myself. Okay.
What were your experiences in boot camp like?
I have a book. This is, and I'll let you all look at it, but these are some of the experiences and maneuvers in boot camp. Boot camp, and there's a couple of things, and you can see here in the picture, I didn't have long hair. But they sit you in a barber chair, and you're there for every bit of about 3 minutes, because all they do is take a razor and shave you bald. They also they check your teeth. They have this is what they give you your shots with. They line you up, and you walk down a hall, and there will be a sergeant standing there with a gun where he gives you pneumonia shots or whatever and you get your arm out and they stick you in your arm, and that's the next person. The mess halls, I was never a fast eater in normal life. First time I went to a mess hall, my stomach was growling, I was hungry. And you have this dining room hall that seats about 35, 40 people, and you got a company of 220 people, and you've got 1 hour to eat. And I'll never forget my first meal because I had full of food, and I'd only taken about 10 or 11 bites, about half my plate, and the sergeant says, "Everybody up." I said, "I'm not done eating." He said, "Yes, you are." And I said, "Okay." I said, "That'll be the last meal I ever missed," because I had to go out in the field the rest of the day, and I was hungry. They just want you to eat fast. So I didn't really pick up a lot of what I call excessive habits. You get a lot of the rules and regulations put in the old computer in the brain where it kind of helps you. I've had situations where when I worked at GE, I'd call so-and-so Mr. So-and-so, and in fact, I had one manager tell me, "You don't have to do that," and I said, "I do that out of respect. I don't do it because you're up here and I'm down here." These marches, you'd have all your backpack and your weapon, and you might march 8, 10 miles, but there's 2 big hills down in Kentucky, and they called them misery and agony. And I'll never forget it because you got your boots on, your jacket, you're carrying 20 to 30 pounds in your backpack, and it might be hot, might be a little cool, but you got to march for 8-10 miles with all this stuff in there. And you see these, they got it set up so you kind of walk on flat ground for the first 8 miles, and then the last 2 miles you got to go up this big hill. So there's hills, they named them misery and agony, and I went up them once and I said, I hope I never have to go back and read. The service can be good or bad, however you want to make it yourself. I hear some people kind of bad-mouthing the service. I wouldn't bad-mouth the service. I don't bad-mouth college. I always had a lot of respect and appreciation for this, but the service just furthered that enhancement. And if anything, for the younger people, if you don't want the service, and I'm not advocating joining or not joining, after being in, it makes you appreciate what you got, where you've been, and if you have to work a little bit harder instead of working 8 hours to accomplish something, now you might work 10 hours to accomplish something. But I deeply admire the men and women that are serving time and helping our country. And the service is not for everybody. I didn't have any pros and cons. I had graduated from college, and the only thing I wanted to do is serve my 2 years because I paid for most of my college and didn't have a lot. My parents didn't have a lot of money. I had a job, but I didn't have any savings, or I didn't have, any money put away to do some things I wanted to do. What the service did for me personally was it makes you appreciate your parents, your family, your friends, where you've been, keeps you out of something you don't want to do. But that's all I would have to say about service. But I also appreciate you kids with your interest in what's been done, and because the one thing that I've heard through John Looker, and I know John personally, is that sometimes the younger generation don't know what people like us went through, and I didn't go through what some of those guys did. John Looker had it. I had it pretty easy, but I deeply respect it and appreciate it. But I have nothing bad to say about the service.